I think it kind of gets into this idea of playfully juxtaposing different situations and using systems of transport and communication that are already in the district here to kind of accomplish this. And so we looked at everything in the sense of play. For a while we were talking about games, and I think we used so far, but the real emphasis was on the playful interactions and communications and meaningful ones. We also looked really closely at existing systems of communication, and not just ones that are real-time, like cell phones or instant messaging or something, but like ones that are more permanent and that become part of the architecture of the city, and then even ones that people can use to influence their own environments. So this is an example of one that people can't really use to influence their environments, but is very much embedded in the fabric of the neighborhood. And so the first kind of big proposal we came up with a few weeks ago, but that was actually a few short days ago, was the system of flags. And I'm going to show it again just because I think it really does what it comes to the ideas that we were showing today. It's a way for people to put a communication in a place which is both targeted at a person, but also publicly viewable. So there's a sense of different readers, different contexts. And each one had a little map of where it was from. So its origin and location. These were felt they could be transported on vehicles. So we started to think about mobility. And the other thing that we really liked about it was that it was kind of fun and comprehensible to all ages. And that really got us thinking about memories in the city and how older residents, there were things that used to be, and younger residents were really into the way things are now, and trying to look at that interaction with city memories, trying to help people communicate these memories in order to give people a better sense of place. So we looked at actually how some of these memories have been built up in a kind of direct architectural way in this layer of the city which was added by the inhabitants in a very informal way. So it's like this idea of second city where there are these rooftop houses, and that comes into play in this idea as well. So we thought we could come up with a way to link these, and originally we were thinking, maybe you go to your window and you see another window, and maybe you can see them watching TV at the same time every day. And we thought we would set up a remote way to communicate by line of sight. But then we realized that actually using a physical medium would make that explicit and make it visible, not just to people participating, but to others who are passing by. And that, it might represent just that there's communication happening to someone passing by, whereas it has a specific meaning for people involved in it. So we looked at the additions of cages in the fronts of buildings, which are a very explicit manifestation of distrust, of the disconnect between people. We tried to reformulate that into this idea of communication. I think we have a better one. So we decided to connect, or to allow people to connect their homes with a ribbon, which is a pretty simple idea. And then we, taking the idea of flags or a format of communication, we designed a series of messages or containers that could be transported between. And so rather than us actually going out and constructing this, we wanted to make it so that people could go and make more explicit their relationships. So there would be a passing of the ribbon from one person or family to the next. And you would either know the person or not, but you'd have to introduce the idea and pass it to them, and then physically link your houses. And this idea of kind of the tension of the connection between them. So that's one thing that's nice about this is that you could actually feel the tension on the ribbon, not only to the next person, but the person after them and after them. We chose a material that was has a very specific kind of like stretchiness and materiality to accomplish that. We also thought about a source, a site, and we chose a small park. It's not far from here, but I'll have that way. This is, let's here. And we thought of how this ribbon might make its way into the community from one kind of origin point that's a public space. And also about how that might, so we have kind of a possible distance depending on how convoluted it is, and it relates back to its original point. We thought we could do it multiple parts, but we focused on this one. And about how long that might take. If it's a very close community and they're very active, and you can say maybe there's a lot of kids involved or a lot of other people with time on their hands or something, you would imagine it could move just like a day or a week. But it might also take a month or a year if people are very busy or uninterested, or perhaps each person is having difficulty finding someone to hand it off to. So there's that sense of time scales. Then we really wanted to think about the origin point, because clearly people will spend some time, if they're playing the game, or they might try to trace it back to the origin point, and making that space special and meaningful was pretty important. So we designed this kind of birdhouse and made the containers into this like folded paper birds, which could be unfolded and they could carry messages inside. Kind of getting at the carrier pigeon reference, which I understand is specific to like space communications many years ago, but also the idea of like this flock of things that is flowing through the community. Really making it dynamic. So ribbon, while it is at any given time, still it's making this kind of very grand motion through the paper. So we built it, and we kind of assembled it in a part of the prototype, and began talking to people about it. And that's actually where it got really interesting. I have some pictures over here to look closely at afterwards. But we worked to interview and communicate with people in the parks, and we actually asked them to carry written statements. We actually just wrote down statements that they made, and asked them what they thought about the idea and whether they had memories they wanted to pass on. And what's nice about this is that as it's coming out of the box, there's a sense that there's this one public place that's connected to a network of very private and interpersonal relationships that are in the neighborhood. And we thought you could actually write messages as they go down and be assured that they would pass through a sequence of people who know each other. The handle we added was to give kind of a feedback in the other direction. So as people slowly pull the ribbon, and they don't have to pull together. One person could pull some slack, and then the next person would see some slack, and they pull that at different times. It would slowly unwind the spool, and all the birds which are kind of stuffed in there would come out. The handle would turn to kind of indicate this sense of progress. You could pull back against the handle if you wanted, and actually feel the tension of running through all these different places. And then we actually added these chimes. We can demonstrate this in a little bit, but basically as it unwinds, it rings the chimes. They're a little too far apart for the wind to ring them, unless it's a hurricane, but it'll make this kind of like ding ding kind of noise. So we'll show that. The site. This is center of the site where there's these chess tables set up, and as we mentioned, there's this very active daily population of elderly men who play chess there. And we really thought that instead of putting up a giant poster or something, we would try to engage them and get them to explain this idea to passersby, since they're always there. They could curate the event for us in a sense, or rather for themselves. And this is like a rare picture of our community of playing chess, which is in a moment. So I think ultimately we want to have a number of them going in different directions. This is kind of close, right? So we're still getting at the violation. Probably the violation is not cheap. Okay, so here's some of the old men, and we set it up in there, and we kind of tried to get them to interact with it. And actually, I like the fact that they just play their game of chess. So like, there's this thing happening, and they can kind of hear the ding dong, and it wouldn't be annoying because really, it would. I mean, we're guessing.